Hello. Didn't see you there. My name is Ariane, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about mental health.
You're talking about mental health? Well, what are people gonna say about you?
The cool part is, I don't care what people say about me, and I'm here to tell you why you shouldn't care either. Let's get into it. Before we get into it, I just want to post a content warning. We will be talking about mental health, mental illnesses, and possibly suicide rates, so gear up. Today I want to talk to you guys about stigma, specifically stigma surrounding mental health. But before we get ahead of ourselves, what is a stigma, you might be asking?
Well, as defined by Google, a stigma is a mark of disgrace associated with a particular circumstance, quality, or person.
Well, that's a little vague. Let me give you a specific example. When I go out with new people to a pizza place, I don't order pineapple on pizza. You know why? Because it's a controversial choice, and I'm worried about the stigma that follows people who order pineapple on pizza, which is that they have no taste. By the way, it's a perfectly acceptable choice. So what? People think you're a little weird. What's so bad about a little stigma? The stigma surrounding mental health and mental illnesses might be a reason that many people do not seek the help that they need, which is kind of sad. It sucks that people are suffering because they're afraid that their neighbors are gonna think they're crazy.
But I mean, what would people say?
Once again, we don't care what people will say. We're trying to erase the stigma behind mental illnesses so that people feel comfortable asking for the services that they need. In a 2017 article from Johns Hopkins Public Health Management website, Anthony Autar, a mental health specialist, estimated that roughly 1/4 of the Guyanese population suffered from some form of PTSD. His reasoning for this? Are high suicide rates, murder rates, and domestic violence rates. While doctors in Guyana are trained in acute mental health crisis intervention, which includes suicide prevention training, there are only 27 registered psychiatrists, psychologists, and mental health professionals within the country to take care of a population of almost 800,000. That's not a whole lot. Guyana has the third highest suicide rate in the world, according to a World Health Organization report from 2016. Now, this is a drastic drop from our #1 spot on the list back in 2014, but our progress thus far has not been enough. This is clearly an issue. Why aren't people talking about it? Why don't people just go see a doctor or a mental health professional when they're having mental health issues? Well, it all comes back to what we were talking about earlier, that good old stigma. And by good old, I mean bad. In Guyana, there's a huge negative stigma surrounding mental health and mental illness. Our mental health facility is literally nicknamed the Madhouse. Who would want to go there? And these stigmas prevent people from seeking the help that they need. I sent out a poll to my followers on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. This poll included a link to an anonymous Google form where I asked people to answer one question. I asked them, what are the societal reasons that you decide to not seek help for your mental health? What holds you back? What have people told you? And I received an overwhelming amount of responses from people from all across the country. I sorted through the data and I managed to compile all the answers into a few separate categories of overlapping themes. And that is what we are going to discuss today. The first stigma was that mental health and mental illnesses are a female thing. And this one is deeply, deeply rooted in toxic masculinity. It's got the patriarchy written all over it. It's not just a female thing. Our boys are told as they're grown up to suck it up, man up. Real men don't show emotions. Real men don't cry. And they internalize this message as they grow up. And when they become adults, they think that nobody wants to listen to them. Nobody cares for their emotions. What they are feeling is not valid. It's why a majority of mental health issues in men go underreported, because they have more trouble than women statistically in engaging in help-seeking behavior. The second stigma that was very popular was that it's an American thing. Well, as previously mentioned in this video, Guyana ranks at number 3 on the world's highest suicide rates. America ranks somewhere in the 30s, according to that very same report. Now, I'm not the best at math, but I know that number 3 is higher up there than number 36. So we actually have them beat at something. This victory doesn't feel as good. Mental health affects anyone and everyone indiscriminately. So it's not just Americans who are affected by it. This next stigma is unsurprising, as we as a Guyanese people are very superstitious. So some people simply believe that mental illness is caused by demons. This one's for you, parents. Do not book an exorcism with your local spiritual leader until your child's head does a full 360 on their shoulders and spiders come crawling out of their mouths. Even then, make sure they didn't eat any spiders before and check up to see if their vertebrae is still intact or if they need to go to a hospital. If your kid is telling you that something is wrong, you need to take them to a doctor or a professional because it is A, safer, B, saner. Don't be that family on the news that we read about who sent an exorcist after their kid and then killed their kid. It's not safe. The stigma is actually a really dangerous one. Another stigma that stopped people from receiving the help that they needed was that they were worried about what people would say. That people would say that they were crazy or that their head wasn't good. That they would bring shame and dishonor to their family. To that, I say, this one is all about you. You need to make the active choice to not care about what other people have to say about you. You need to do what is best for your mental health and what is best for your overall health. Another common stigma which stopped people from seeking the help that they needed was that belief that people with mental health simply needed to get some Jesus. I'm actually deeply spiritual, and studies have shown that using spirituality to cope with mental illness has been really effective. However, you should still go to therapy, probably. It's okay to seek help. Your religion and your spiritual practices can help you along the road to recovery, but you need a little direct push sometimes. Now, this one is a really popular one. I'm pretty sure we've all heard it at some point.
Other people have it worse.
This one is probably my least favorite because it operates on the most ridiculous principle. And that is the principle that we are allowed to gatekeep people's emotions. Come on. I can still feel sad and acknowledge that right now there's a global refugee crisis. I can still be sad and acknowledge that the planet is dying and we need to enact change in our climate policies to save it. That's a separate video. Personally, if somebody came up to me when I was really happy and told me, you can't be happy, there's people in the world who are happier than you, so your feelings are invalid, I would punch them in the throat. For legal purposes, that is a joke. You have a good life. You can't be sad. You can be anything you want to be. Having great environmental factors are protective. Having a good place to live and a good family to come home can all function as a support for somebody with mental health issues, but it's not the end of it. The moment your body decides to stop producing that good endorphin, you're out of luck. It does not matter. You're being overly dramatic. That's a fun one. So I watched my friend get her belly button pierced and she did not flinch. On the other hand, I cried when I got this paper cut. Different people have different tolerance levels for pain, and what seems like a minor inconvenience to you might seem like the end of the world to somebody else. Just know, if somebody tells you that you're being over-dramatic about your feelings and your mental health, that you are the expert in your own experience, and that they cannot invalidate you like that. For now, though, I'm just one voice shouting into the void. While it's important that I start the conversation, it's important that everyone else keeps it going. Talking about mental health helps us to normalize the feelings that other people might be experiencing. And it helps them feel like they're not weird and that they're not alone in this journey. It's so important that we start to change our culture and our attitudes towards help-seeking behavior, because that is the way that our Guyanese population, our people, our neighbors, our brothers, our sisters, can get better and feel better. What are some things you can do? You're probably wondering. You can start by minding your language. We tend to look at people and call them mad, crazy, insane. That's not super encouraging for other people who might be trying to seek help. By reducing our use of this kind of language, we help normalize the idea that it is okay to ask for help and that there's nothing wrong with you for needing it. In addition to that, we should call out our friends and our family who use this language. They're just helping to perpetuate the stigmas that are already present in our society. And not to do too much self-promo, but you could totally share this video if you wanted. I wouldn't be opposed to it. That's all I have for now. Thank you guys so much for listening. To everyone who participated in my polls and in my research, who reached out to tell me your stories, thank you so much for sharing your experience. It really means a lot to me. Cool. I like to talk a lot about mental health and mental illness, so drop a follow if you want to learn more. Okay, bye!